Hello, everybody. Well, welcome. This is Monday night, and of course, this is the Yard Side, the most important, relevant podcast in politics. Your host, as always, Jonny Torres. Thank you so much, everybody, for listening, watching, whenever, wherever you may be doing so. And better late than never, we are live. Thank you so much to everybody who catches the show. We've got a lot of exciting things coming down the road. We're going to be partnering with organizations. We're going to be trying out some new things, and so lots of exciting things going on. Today, we're going to be pilot and co-pilot as we are one short for today's show. Anibal is out for today. He just went a little too hard this weekend, and so he's taking a rest for today, but I'm sure he'll be back next week. And but nonetheless, there is just always plenty to talk about. There's obviously so much going on, and while it's very easy to go ahead and take the route that a lot of the shows do and do kind of the same topics, as most of the national shows do. I try to make sure that this show kind of stands out by covering not only state issues, but also covering some local issues, and then of course trying to bring a unique perspective on the national issues. I'm your host as always, Jonny Torres. Thank you everybody for those tuning in, and don't forget, if you don't catch the live version on Facebook, YouTube of this show, you can also subscribe to the audio version of our podcast over at the Tech Overlords, Google, Apple, Spotify, Audible, Amazon, iHeartRadio, Odyssey, and Samsung podcast platforms, basically wherever you like to digest your audio podcast. And then, of course, the video version you can find on YouTube and Facebook, as always. As you can see, we've got a nice list of topics there. Rays go woke and broke. It's just kind of that time of year as we kick off Pride Month. Just lays it up for them. And Rays is kind of striking out twice within the past week. First with an issue on gun safety, and then also they have some internal differences in opinion with Pride Month. So we'll talk about what the Rays are doing and how that's backfired on them. Primary dropouts right now is right about the time where we're going to start to see some folks step aside, some of the fields get cleared as we try to kind of just lessen the damage that typically happens in a primary and get closer to these first set of primary elections. We have two major dropouts and two major races. We'll talk about those and the fallout and the speculation as to why these individuals have decided to either change races or drop out. But they are definitely two names you're not going to want to miss. And ObamaFAIL continues. That's right. Obamacare is still around, and it turns out that up to 500,000 Floridians could be losing their Obamacare coverage. It just goes to show you again how great that program continues to be. And so we'll talk about why that is. As all of a sudden, healthcare, not a major topic that anybody's talking about, given that the Democrats, again, have full control of the government, yet are doing nothing to try to fix it. So let's go ahead over to the big table and introduce you to tonight's co-host, who is somebody we haven't seen for a bit, but thanks for stepping up to the plate as Anibal, couldn't fulfill his weekly duties. Joe Wicker, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good. Anibal got wrestled by some kids or something, right? He's running a camp or something like that.
Doing a combination of things. Got a big wedding on Sunday, and then had
those will wear you
had
out.
A summer camp thing, I think, last night, and
you have to get all dressed up so you can go eat some cupcakes at some farmland somewhere that somebody rented for a few hours.
Yeah, exactly. Make pretend you're having a good time.
Yeah.
Make conversation with random people.
Weddings are for moms, right? Like
pretty much
for the mom, mother-in-law. Yeah.
And unfortunately, the dad that has to strike the check.
Yeah. No, I like weddings, but I mean, weddings are good. Weddings are awesome, but it is kind of like you're just as married at the end. Whether you spend $5,000 or $50,000, you're just as married at the end of it.
I'm telling you what. I mean,
you're not any more married.
I've been in the wedding industry now for 20 years, and I'm about to just make it kind of like, remember COVID when people would just drive by your house and honk the horn?
Yeah, it's like, good job, bro. Good job.
I think if I get married, it's gonna be like that. It's gonna be like a little drive-by wedding.
Hey, my father refused to marry my mother on a Saturday during football season.
Oh man.
So,
Wow.
you gotta do things a certain way.
Yeah.
Especially if you're in the South. If you're in the SEC,
Right.
you have to do weddings a certain way. You can't get married on a game day in the South on a Saturday. You can't.
That's
do that.
true.
Not during football season.
Wow. Look at that. That's pretty interesting. All right. Well, again, we're going to kind of keep it light, keep it short tonight as Joe's joining me for tonight's show. But again, kind of some, again, some softball topics given the gravity of pretty much everything else going on. Still got the war in Ukraine, and that, seemingly more unstable than ever. And of course, still a lot of fallout from the shooting in Texas, as then there was, I think, another shooting. Was it in Ohio? Toledo, I believe.
Are you talking about the one the media doesn't want to talk about?
Well, now they're talking about, there were all these mass shootings, so, over the weekend.
They only talk about certain ones. You know that.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
When it fits the profile.
Exactly.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and kick off with our first topic, which is one that I love to talk about because it does put me in a very difficult position. I love baseball. I grew up playing baseball. That being said, even living within an hour's reach of Tropicana Field, I don't go to very many Rays games. But I've never been a fan of again the tax dollars going towards private stadiums, and this has obviously been a bigger topic that really took hold, I would say, when the Tea Party came around in like 2010, and this kind of corporate welfare thing really became an issue.
I think it goes in conjunction with like a general distrust of government, right? Like it seems like just as a kid growing up, like it seems like in the 80s and even in the 90s, like you didn't assume first that whatever they were doing was going to be wrong or somehow like a scam. Yeah. But now it's almost like you have to look at every little thing and question it. And, you used to be able to get taxpayers to put up the money for stadiums. People just aren't buying into that anymore. And it's like, well, and also because, when the people have issues that need to be dealt with, like right now, think about it. Gas is crazy. People can't find a place to live. The places
especially
that are
Pinellas
for rent,
County.
it's insane. It's insane. And so
still got a huge homeless problem.
Yeah, it's like you've got a lot of people in Hillsborough and Pinellas County that are literally struggling to find out where they're going to live next month because their landlord is selling the house. Or for that matter, they're selling the double wide trailer that they're paying $2,000 a month to live in and rent. Right. And so people are getting kicked out of their place, trying to find another place. Meanwhile, politicians are focused on, we need to give $500 million to the Rays, to a corporation so that they can build. We just don't do this for anyone else generally. Right. We don't do this for companies. They don't do it for any
other business.
Yeah.
They don't do it.
Yeah.
And it seems like, again, it's always like the big companies. You got to have like the Amazons and the Walmarts and to be able to get these type of special deals.
The voters
land deals.
The voters are just kind of over it. I mean, it is sad because baseball, I feel, the whole concept of it being America's pastime. I mean, it is really connected to like American history, kind of,
Sure, of course.
like even more so than football, right?
Right.
It's older than football. Yeah. And it's part of Americana. But man, we went from just ball fields to mega stadium complexes that are
contracts.
That are now like pushing $1 billion, and it's like you can't get taxpayers to pay $1 billion for something that's not really going to be fully utilized.
Well, and these player contracts are so ridiculous now that honestly, eliminate one of these players and you could probably buy your own stadium.
Yeah, I mean, you figure if a player makes, $50 million a year and they get like a 5-year contract, well, there's $250 million right there. Yeah. So literally, you could cut a couple players and you could buy yourself a brand new stadium.
Now, the way
I don't blame companies for trying. I don't blame them for trying, but
well, no, and they know again that they're going to get these concessions. They're going to get these land deals, these tax breaks.
Well, and on top of that, though, here's the problem with it. On top of it, like the pitch to the taxpayer is like, oh, it'll bring jobs, whatever. It'll bring like
not real jobs.
Yeah, economic activity, and they'll say things like every dollar we spend returns $1.50. Here's the problem with that, right? Is that the jobs, like you said, aren't really jobs that people are really getting excited about. And
these are second or third jobs.
Right. A lot of the times the venue sits empty a majority of the time.
Right.
So it really isn't the benefit to the community that they try to claim that it is.
Yep.
And so the people that really want it are the people that own the land that's going to get bought.
Yeah.
Or that own the land around it. And I don't know, maybe it's different up north, but like in my experience, living near a stadium has never really been like a great thing. It's kind of like being next to an airport.
And look, this is the thing, because I do want to kind of lay down the groundwork. First of all, is how ridiculous the media has portrayed this thing. The headline pretty much nationally was like this: after Rays decry shootings, Florida governor vetoes funding for possible team facility. Okay, they nationally framed it this way to make him look like a villain in this case. Because saying that, because the Rays spoke out against the shooting in Texas and against gun violence, that then the governor reacted to that by turning down the money.
What were they going to get? What was it that was put?
Now, the truth of the matter is
they
that
weren't going to get it.
They weren't going to get it anyways. Right. You and I know that.
So for the viewers, though, basically what happened was a legislator or legislators got written into the budget $35 million.
Yeah, and it looks like it was Pasco County.
Pasco County, the Rays. Okay.
Yeah, Pasco County has been trying to position themselves as the sports capital of Florida.
Ah, okay.
So they've got all these new athletic facilities scattered all throughout the county.
Right.
Because they think that sports is really going to be like their next big.
Well, I got to tell you, I mean, in Florida's a big state, 25+ million people. I mean, my son played football for the first time at 7 years old, and I mean they won all 5 games they played or whatever. It's spring ball. It's not even fall ball. It's a spring ball. And next thing I know, we're on the road to West Palm, and I'm like, why are we going to West Palm for my 7-year-old again? Give him his little trophy, tell him he did a good job, spank him on the rear, and let's go.
Yeah, exactly. Like, there's no college money involved.
Like no one's getting a D1 scholarship. They're having like signing day, like, all right, little Timmy. It's gotten out of hand. And here's the thing: every parent talks about how it's gotten out of hand, but we all go along with it. So
think about it. Down in Bradenton, there's a multi-million-dollar facility. That is a boarding school for
sports players.
For sports, for athletes.
So in fairness to Pasco County's politicians and whatnot, I mean, sports are a big deal in states like Florida, Texas, California, and lots of recruiting goes on and stuff like that. They start these kids young, and then they try to develop them and whatnot. So I get it. And if you want to be known for, and Pasco County's got some land. What's it to them to go out and take 100 acres and build a sports complex?
Yeah. So it was $35 million that got vetoed by Governor DeSantis on Thursday, and the project was going to be for a youth sports complex, which they actually already just built one in Wesley Chapel. So this is another
$35 million though,
and then
for a youth sports complex.
Yeah, and a potential spring training site for the Tampa Bay Rays. Now, the money that was included, this money was included in the $112 billion budget plan that DeSantis signed off on earlier this year. However, with his line item veto, he used that to, and this is the win for Republicans, he vetoed a record $3.1 billion out of the initial budget proposal. A record $3.1 billion.
Well, and the budget was what, 100 something?
Yeah, 112.
112, so...
Okay,
so he vetoed 2%.
Yeah. A record. That's a record.
But still. Yeah. So he cut a couple points. He shaved a couple points off the total budget. We'll take all we can get.
Yeah, and so the Rays, and then
and really, when you think about it, that's just the pork, though. Like, that's just pork that got cut. Like, like that doesn't even.
I'm sure there's plenty more.
Yeah, that doesn't even touch like the recurring funding that probably should get addressed, like the Department of Education and Health and ACA and all that.
So May 26th, so about 2 weeks ago, the Rays issued a statement, decrying the recent mass shootings in Buffalo and Uvalde. Again, 2 weeks ago. So these things aren't even. Again, the media is trying to connect these dots. They're, for the readers, for the headline readers.
Right.
But in reality, these two things are completely unrelated.
No, but actually it's going to end up benefiting DeSantis, just like they tried to come after him for Disney. This is going to benefit him because actually politically this is good for DeSantis. Why he doesn't need to run from this. Let that be the story. He was gonna veto the $35 million anyway, like you said, but let this be the story, because then he can go out and say, okay, well, why would taxpayers give their money to corporations that turn around and use that money for political activism? Like corporations, I've said this many times before, corporations, what are y'all doing? Stop listening to your HR person who's never done anything other than work in your HR department since they got out of some left-leaning college that they went to. No, regular Americans don't care about name your corporation. They don't care about your political views. No one buys. No one goes to the Rays game because the Rays are pro-life or like pro-gun or like whatever. Like, give me a break. Like, people go to watch. It's this odd thing, people go to a Rays game. This is going to sound crazy, but I think they go to watch the Rays play baseball. I mean, they go to watch. I hear that they go to watch baseball. I thought they were going for politics. It's so dumb. Stop spending money on. It's a waste of money.
They're not going because of whatever organization they gave money to. They're not going because they're wearing rainbow flags, which is another thing I'm going to bring up here.
Oh yeah, it's protection money. It's like the mafia. It's like the mafia. Here they show up. Hey, they shake them down. Hey, we're new. What is it? Every Town USA for that doesn't know anything about guns or whatever, and they're like, yeah, give us some money. We just had a shooting, we're going to help promote it, and you can put that on your website, and it'll make you feel good about yourself. Like, dude, give me a break.
But you're right. This was the brilliant quote from Governor DeSantis following the veto. He says, companies are free to engage or not engage in whatever discourse they want. But clearly it's inappropriate to be doing tax dollars for professional sports stadiums. That's win number one. Win number two is that he said it's also inappropriate to subsidize political activism of a private corporation. Either way, it's not appropriate, but we were not in a situation where the use of tax dollars for a professional stadium would have been a prudent use.
Corporations, your customers don't care about your activism if your product sucks. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, if you don't have a good product, your activism won't save you. Your activism won't save you.
Look, and to be honest, the Rays have had a good team for the past number of seasons.
The product's not good.
But for whatever reason, people aren't going to the games.
Yeah, and that's a whole different thing, and it's not necessarily the player's fault or whatever, but there's a whole dynamic around that. We know that's kind of
But that's that's been the case in Miami. That was the case with the Marlins. We see it here with the Rays.
And being woke is not going to put fans in the stands. No. It's not.
The other thing that came out was that this week, of course, Pride Month started, and so
how can you not know? I mean, if you're on Facebook, how can you not know?
Major League Baseball, goes all out and they start throwing rainbows up on everything,
of course,
and a handful of the players on the Tampa Bay Rays.
They were putting it on their uniform. They're
like, I'm not wearing the rainbow flags.
Yeah, exactly.
And then of course the media is saying,
it doesn't represent their values.
Is this going to affect the dynamic and the chemistry of the team?
Anybody that's ever played like a sport, I've never played at a high level, obviously, but like anybody that's ever been like on a team sport like that, I'm even thinking back to like when I was in the Army, a bunch of young men on a team, you have a mission to accomplish and you're there for that.
Right.
And like you want the guy that's like, take baseball, the pitcher needs to pitch, the catcher needs to be catching and doing their job. Right?
Everything else is noise.
No one else cares. Like girlfriends, wives, whatever's going on outside your schooling, like whatever's going on outside of your sport, dude, when you're on that team, it's about winning that game.
Yeah.
I mean, people might be there for different reasons. In the pros, I mean, obviously everybody's there for kind of the same reason, but I mean, no one cares about that stuff.
Right.
And so then when you start forcing, hey, you're going to promote this. Whoa, time out. Like, I'm not here to promote politics.
Well,
I'm
that's
not
why
here to promote social reasons.
Toxic. Well, aside from the fact that he was on his decline.
Well, he was somebody that wanted to be a promoter, and other people were like, we're not here for that.
Right.
So yeah, it's kind of the reverse. He was pushing it. But one thing I was going to say was, though, here's the thing to the Rays, in case you're listening, I know you're not, for your your HR department, you can't charge me $10 for a Bud Light and then get woke. You can't. You can't take I'll give you $10 for a Bud Light, but you can't then turn around and give my money to some BS cause. You can put it into the stadium. You can put it into the players. You can put it into the salaries of the people serving everybody and working there and all that. But you can't get into political activism and be pushing things onto me during the game when I just paid $10 for a Bud Light.
No, and 50,000 of that went to, was it 50,000?
Yeah, any town, any whatever.
$50,000 to every town for gun safety. Yeah, which I think, as you said before the show started, that's the David Hogue.
I think it's his. I think that's.
It might be the one.
I think that might be what he's tied to.
So look,
did he ever graduate Harvard? Didn't they let him into Harvard because he was woke or something? Like he wasn't even qualified really to get in.
They didn't let him into Harvard.
No, he got in it. He got admission.
Did they walk it back?
I don't know. Did they? I forgot. He got admitted after all that. Yeah.
I thought initially he wasn't, and I think they walked it back.
Oh, maybe they walked it back.
Yeah, but
maybe they saw his GPA and were like, never mind.
But we found ourselves, kind of on the opposite ends of this issue. Again, every time it comes up, really, because there's a lot of Republicans who would gladly hand over a taxpayer check to the Rays just so they can build a stadium here in Tampa.
I talked to a guy at the Brandon Republican Club, and I think this was when I was running for office, I think. And he was like, Joe, I'm not with you on this, man. And I was like, really? Because most Republicans are most voters are against public subsidizing entertainment right at this point. Sure. Right? Most voters are. It's not really a hot button political issue. But for this one guy at the Brandon Republican Club, it's his issue. You know why? Because he loves baseball. And he grabs the roster, and he's got the stats, and he drives from Brandon to the games, and he loves it, and it's his thing. Yeah. And he's like, I absolutely want a stadium in Ybor. And I'm like, okay, so, but having said, and that's cool. And you know what? We respected each other. I said, well, I'm against it, and I'll never vote for it, just so you know. And he's cool with that because we're in alignment in every other way. Yeah. So, and I was honest with him. I wasn't going to tell him something that's not true. But he understood. But here's the thing. Honestly, that guy's probably 60. Different generation, and just a baseball lover, which I can really appreciate. But there's a reason why they can't get but maybe 12,000 people out there.
But it's also, like you were saying, it's a generational thing where your professional sports team used to mean something. It used to mean that it was part of the community. It was representative of the community. It was, you know what I mean?
And players stayed.
Right.
Right? Like a lot of players were with one team.
Yeah.
Right? And you didn't have this jockeying, right? And like
Derek Brooks or some of these guys that we still see, Mike Allston maybe, But I mean, again, those are the remnants. Those are the last remnants. Yeah,
and by the players staying with the team, you create kind of almost like brand loyalty, because people follow their teams, but they fall in love with players.
Right.
They love their team, but they love their players, and they follow their players around everywhere and stuff like that. And there's a lot of power in the attraction that players and the following that players have. I'm going to give one quick example. Peyton Manning. Now, Peyton Manning, obviously, star quarterback and everything. Yeah. Okay, he went to college at the University of Tennessee, which I happen to be a season ticket holder to of over 40 years from my family. And I'm in a restaurant, some off-the-wall, hole-in-the-wall diner in East Tennessee. And on the TV that's like one of those big box TVs that is mounted up to the wall, right. Like somehow
it's probably been up there 30 years.
Yeah, it's probably been up there 30 years, yeah. And on this TV was the Colts game, Indianapolis Colts game, right? Because Peyton Manning went to the Colts.
Sure, yeah.
And I remember thinking to myself, I was like, when would you have ever thought that some random diner in East Tennessee would be playing an Indianapolis Colts game?
Yeah.
That's just not...
Willingly.
Yeah, that's just not something they would do.
Right.
Why are they no one in there is a Colts fan.
Right.
No one in there even knows where the Colts play. They don't know the capital of Indiana. They don't know who the governor is. They don't know anyone from Indiana. They know they got a lot of corn maybe. they're watching because Peyton Manning is
Right.
playing,
Yeah.
and Peyton Manning represented Tennessee.
Well, the Manning family.
And the Manning family, yeah.
Yeah.
So people follow players, and when you have players that stay at a team, then over the years, 20 years, you're
Right.
developing that following. It's too commercialized. The players are making all the players are gazillionaires.
Yeah,
there's
LeBron.
a lack of. There's not they're not in touch really with regular people. It's just changing.
Yeah, I think LeBron, has officially become the first player, the first active player to become a billionaire.
Is he a billionaire now?
He's like right
Just
there,
from
or
playing? Just from salaries?
No.
Okay, I was gonna say the
I'm
real
sure it's
money.
everything.
Right, the real money is in the endorsements, right?
Well, it's that, and he's like producing
He's got
tons
some
of
business.
movies.
Yeah, okay. I was gonna say he's got to have a business outside.
He's
of that.
gotten really big into Hollywood. He's produced a ton of movies.
Yeah.
Over the past few years.
Good for him.
And
That's what you got to do.
look, hey, for a kid who didn't go to college, I mean,
I thought Michael Jordan became a billionaire. No, he never did.
while active, I think.
Oh, you mean active? Yeah. Well, it's hard because it's hard for anybody to play for 20 plus years.
Yeah, but again, for a kid who didn't go to college, I mean, LeBron's done pretty well. But that being said, I think you hit it right there on the head at the end, which is that, professional sports have become just that, very professional. They're corporations. These athletes are multimillionaires. It's not like, again, back in the early days of the league where these guys, were working two jobs. One was their day job, and two was,
They played baseball.
playing defensive line for the New York Jets or something.
Hey, everybody,
like
we
that,
got a new foreman this week. Tell us your name. My name's Ruth, Babe Ruth.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Be the foreman on this job here. What? I was going to ask you something, but I forget what it was now. Yeah. Anyway, moving on.
Well, we can jump into the next topic. Again, thanks everybody for watching the Yard Sign. Joe Wicker, my co-host for today.
I don't understand the math behind baseball. Like, I don't understand the business of it. So, like, do they really even make, like, is having fans in the stands really critical to the overall business?
See, and I think this is the problem that baseball has created for itself.
Right. They make their money off the advertising.
I think the
TV,
broadcasting rights have now surpassed.
That's the money.
Yeah.
That's the money. Because you can't be paying out, $250 million a year or whatever their crazy salaries are just by ticket sales.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, you can't.
Well, and it goes back to how you opened the topic, which was, I think, the big reason why voters are now completely against this. I mean, look at what happened in Miami. The Florida Marlins legitimately lied from A to Z to the fans of the Marlins and made this poverty case as to why they should get a taxpayer-funded stadium. And after it got the okay, and once it was under construction, someone did a deep dive investigation and realized that, no, they were flush with money. And
Of course, because it's a business and they know what they're doing.
Yeah. And that became the scandal that I think kind of broke the cycle for a lot of these other teams and really put a lot of these other teams to put up or shut up. But that being said, the two MLS teams here in Florida, both Orlando City Soccer and the Inter Miami Football Club, have self-funded stadiums. It's like, if soccer can do it, you're going to tell me football can't? You're going to tell me baseball can't?
Because when you have to, you find a way.
Oh, yeah.
When you have to, you find a way. I think politicians just love being connected to something popular like that, right? Like, to do something with a professional sports team makes the news. There's probably some patronage that comes along with that or something. I mean, what?
Well, I mean, look, Ken Hagan's practically put his career on the line, for this stadium in Ybor. I mean,
and I'm sure if it ever gets built, I'm sure he'll have a nice club seat for him and his family forever.
Yeah.
I mean,
all right,
man.
Thanks again for joining us for the Yard Sign, everybody. Joe Wicker with us, Anibal out for today's show, but we've got some interesting news happening on the political front as we get closer to our primary elections, as we have dropouts happening. Now, this, again, not entirely uncommon, but you certainly see it in bigger races. This is such an interesting cycle. Of course, the expectation is that there's going to be a Republican wave in these midterm elections, and so we're seeing that effect. And I think in the two cases we're about to discuss, I think this is directly related to this Republican wave because it has moved. It has made people make a lot of moves that typically I don't think they would normally make, and it's really just it's going to continue to make for some interesting politics and some interesting races as we get here close to the finish line. Before we get into the topic, though, again, don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, ring the bell if you're watching us on YouTube, and if you're one of our audio subscribers, again, share it around. Let other people know that you listen to the audio version of a podcast, and if you haven't signed up for the audio version of the podcast, you can do so on your favorite podcast platform. Just search for The Yard Sign. So it turns out we've got two major primary dropouts. The first being someone near and dear to my heart, and I mean that in the most sarcastic way possible. It is Miami resident and state senator Annette Taddeo, also failed vice gubernatorial candidate. She is actually deciding to switch races. She was running for governor against Nikki Fried, Charlie Crist, and has decided to drop out of that race, being that she was kind of the third pony in that race. And she's going to actually run for Miami's Florida's 27th congressional district, which is Maria Elvira Salazar. Now, that is kind of a toss-up seat. It is right in the heart of Miami. It is a seat that was previously held by the University of Miami president, Donna Shalala, so it was in Democrat hands. Maria Salazar was able to capitalize on a wave, that she was able to create down there, and get that seat into Republican hands. Now she's going to have to defend it against not only Annette Taddeo. There's another person, Miami Commissioner Ken Russell, who's also in that race. But again, Taddeo must think that, this is going to be the easier win for her. And of course, heaven forbid she goes back to having a normal job. But Annette Taddeo dropping out.
You mean the polling decided?
That's right.
The polling decided.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, it's bad enough. Have you seen the pictures of some of these?
She would be dropping out.
Some of these Democrat events for these gubernatorial candidates? I mean, they're lucky if they're getting 30 people. Well,
remember Hillary Clinton when she was running for president and she couldn't get anybody?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, COVID was like helping the Democrats because they would draw these big circles around the chairs, spread all the chairs out. So you could have like 10 people show up, which is basically like your own staff, and it would look like you had an event.
Right.
But no, I mean, the polling is probably not going her way, and you've already got the current agriculture commissioner, Nikki Fried. Boy, she's something else. She's kind of out there. And then you have, of course, Charlie Crist, whatever that guy is this week, Republican, Democrat, Socialist Party, Green Party, Independent, whatever he is.
Well, and it's sad that, that's really the best that the Democratic Party has to offer.
That's all they can put up, man. Because they can't, because Charlie Crist can raise money, And
if I were
Fried's
governor,
already sitting in, she's got kind of a bully pulpit a little bit,
If I were Governor DeSantis, I'd invite her to put her name over all the gas pumps again.
Oh, Nikki Fried?
Yeah, remember when she first got elected to office?
She put her. That was a smart move by her. I'll give her credit.
Initially,
she thought she was going to get. She got away with it for a while, and then they had to basically, nip that in the bud. But in all fairness, though, politicians shouldn't be able to use they shouldn't be able to use taxpayer funds for what? For self-promotion. The fact that your name is on some letterhead or that your picture is in a building, like that is what it is. But I mean, she had her. For those that don't know, the Commissioner of Agriculture, that office oversees the inspection of the fuel pumps, and you get those stickers on there, inspected by Commissioner whoever, right? And Nikki Fried decided, no, I'm not going to have like a little green logo with a name. I'm going to put my face on there. And she had a nice photo on there. And then you would go to the gas pumps, and people would have like drawn black, like the mustache, and like made her, with the horns, and turned her into.
Well, it didn't help that she has like that extra wide Joker smile.
She does have a little bit of that. I don't want to make fun of people's looks. I mean, but she does have it made it easy just with, people were doing things to her picture, and it was just becoming kind of a joke. But I mean, in fairness, again, if you can get your picture and your name and you're a politician, you can get it on every gas pump in the state.
Well, locally, we had that issue.
That doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt with name ID.
I mean, locally, we had that issue with Sheriff Chronister. So Sheriff Chronister was getting a lot of flack.
Well, because when he came in as sheriff, he put his name on all the vehicles and stuff. Now, was Sheriff G's name not on the vehicles?
I don't think so. Or maybe not that size, or maybe it was. But I mean, his name was pretty prominent on all the vehicles. But
I mean, it was what did they spent like $100,000 or something?
I don't know,
whatever it was.
But
did that change? But they didn't take it off though, right? They didn't.
I don't see it as much anymore. So I think they've gone and undone that.
I don't know.
Yeah. But Annette Taddeo dropping out, not a big surprise.
Here's the thing. I see it both ways, right? Like on one hand, as a voter, I don't know, we're kind of tough on politicians sometimes, right? Like we'll get upset because they're promoting themselves, and then it comes election season, and we're like, now who's my state rep again? It's like we don't know who a lot of our own elected officials are.
Right.
I mean, look, I'm guilty of having a hard time keeping up with judges. I mean, it's not easy sometimes, especially in an election where you have tons of people on the ballot, lots of people running. It's like, okay, you got all these people running. So on one hand, what do you want them to do? You want them to go you want them to be in the basement in hiding, or do you want them to let like, hey, I'm your state rep, your state senator, or whatever. This is who I am.
Well, the basement worked for Joe Biden. I mean,
basement did work for him, and the votes just rolled in.
But Annette Taddeo, I mean, always weak. She actually, when she was running as a vice gubernatorial candidate a cycle ago, she got a lot of flack because it was actually when. She was running, I think, for U.S. Senate against Rick Scott. And Rick Scott spoke Spanish. And then she came out and said, if you can't properly speak our language, don't speak it at all. Thinking that was going to get her some points. Yeah. And it completely backfired on her.
I missed that.
Oh, no, I have the screenshots. I love it. I always love seeing those.
What were people saying? They were praising his Spanish?
Well, yeah, they were saying, hey, at least he's trying.
Oh, right, because he's trying. Because I'm going to tell you what. That's something people don't understand. See, Rick Scott, man, he was such a good governor, and he's like the nicest man, and the Democrats did a really good job of demonizing him. I mean, they made him seem, what were they calling him, Voldemort or whatever?
Sure,
like they were calling him all these names, making him seem like he was completely out of touch, which is not true. He did not grow up with money. I mean, he tells the story a lot. He did not grow up with money. He got himself through school, joined the Navy, did what he had to do to get his start in life. The guy, he's a lawyer, actually, graduated law school, went into business, built a business. And look, you don't become a multi-billionaire by being an idiot.
Right.
And he's a really smart guy. And Rick Scott is actually the kind of guy that when he decided, you know what, I'm governor, I should probably learn Spanish. It would help me communicate. Yeah. The dude literally taught himself Spanish.
Yeah. And now,
probably over the course of 18 months, the guy teaches himself Spanish. And when he listens,
very well.
Yes, he speaks it. He taught himself Spanish,
speaks
basically.
It and understands it.
Yeah. So look, again, you got to give the guy credit. You know what? He recognized, and that's how. I mean, I didn't come on here to praise Rick Scott, but I'm just saying, actually, it makes me think more about him as a businessman. Mm-hmm. He understood that he had a gap.
Right.
He had a knowledge gap. He had a gap in his ability to truly connect and understand. Well, and he decided, this is Florida. We have a high concentration of Hispanic-speaking residents. I should probably learn that.
Well, it was
And
one of the things I will always give him
he
credit
filled that
for.
gap.
That more so than just about any Republican before him, he actually went into the Hispanic community.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, intentionally.
Well, Jeb was pretty good about that, right?
You know, he went into the Hispanic communities. He went into the Haitian communities. He went into the Vietnamese communities. Like, he intentionally sought out votes where Republicans typically wouldn't go.
Yeah.
And it paid off for him big time. He won a larger share of the minority vote in Miami than I think Republicans had in South Florida in a long time.
Did he get more of the share than Marco Rubio?
I don't remember.
Yeah, it might be interesting to see. I remember. Might be interesting to see.
But let's see. So what I love are these kind of nonsense statements as to why she wanted to change races. She goes, but frankly, a lot has happened in the last few weeks, and after the tragedies, and after the tragedies in Buffalo and Uvalde,
tragedy of my polling.
I actually had a pretty heart-to-heart conversation with my daughter, and I knew what I needed to do.
I needed to run for Congress.
Yeah. Saying that her decision to drop out of the governor's race was as a result of a combination of a lot of things.
Yeah. Look,
polling.
You looked at the polling.
money.
It wasn't going to work out. You were going to have to run statewide. Running statewide is very expensive. And so you decided that your better shot was running locally for Congress. Everybody gets it.
Yeah.
Everybody gets it from a political standpoint. We get it.
Yeah.
It's a business decision.
Oh, but Charlie Crist said that today is a force to be reckoned with and a dear friend. Anyways, so the other big one.
Which is like saying,
right.
Thank you for taking my recommendation, and I'll call you. I'll call you. Once I get there.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Just be ready for the joint campaign event.
Yeah. If your congressional thing doesn't work out and mine does, then I'll hook you up.
Now the surprising one.
Did she endorse anybody yet in that race? Did she endorse?
No,
because she ought to come. Because that's really what he. I mean,
I think it'll be Charlie.
Yeah,
because Nikki didn't say anything.
Right.
So the big surprise is our good friend, as I like to say, our good friend Dennis Ross, and he is. Dennis is a great congressman. Yeah. Dennis is a great guy. Has withdrawn from the congressional district 15 race, which is Hillsborough County, Polk County, saying that limited resources and the crowded field of candidates for the open Florida 15 seat motivated his withdrawal. So I don't. That obviously says I don't have quite the clout that I used to. It is a very crowded field. There is, without him. Let's see. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 other Republicans running for that seat, and 3 Democrats and 2 NPAs.
Okay, forget the NPAs. Although, God bless you and your love for the country, and your desire to serve. Moving on. How many Republicans?
6 without Dennis Ross.
I thought there was only 3.
Nope. Well, I mean,
I thought there was 3 with
Ross.
Ross.
The 3 that really matter. I mean,
I thought there was 3. I know, and I hate to be like that. I don't want to be like that to people that are willing to run for office.
No,
but
I mean,
it was Dennis Ross, former congressman from the area, but he's a Lakeland. He's also a Polk County guy.
He is. He's a Polk County guy. Okay, but here's the list: State Representative Jackie Toledo,
and then Jackie Toledo
from South Tampa, which again doesn't make sense. State Senator Kelly Stargell, who is from Polk County,
right?
Former Secretary of State,
whose daughter is out of control right now. Kelly Stargell.
Oh yeah.
The video.
Yep.
Wow, she's
now Laurel Lee, who is just resigned as Secretary of State,
right?
Hillsborough County resident.
Now she filed.
Yes.
Okay, so she's in. Yep.
And I think that might have been the nail in the coffin for Ross. U.S. Army veteran Jay Collins.
And he's staying in 15 and not.
Again, I don't know why he's not going for 14, but not that 14's any easier.
Because it's not winnable. Because 14's not winnable.
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so. Not for Jay Collins. Laurel Lee, I think, could win 14 if that were her district.
But isn't it 60-40 Democrat?
Not with the new maps. I don't
know.
Yeah, okay. I think it's a lot tighter with the new maps. So if you factor in the new maps plus the red wave that we're supposed to see, I think we could win it. But
Yeah, but look at
Now we
it
don't-
but
now-
look at it like this though. But Laurel Lee is married to Senator Tom Lee.
I'm just saying, Kathy
And
Castor has a lot of Republicans to thank because now there's like no one running against her.
Right. And so Laurel Lee is former Secretary of State. She's married to former State Senator Tom Lee, who is from Brandon. People know that name.
Yep.
And so, I mean, that's kind of a fit, you know.
Yeah. U.S. Army veteran Jay Collins, and this is where they start to get unknown. Okay, Jay Collins, newcomer, Army veteran. I think he was a Green Beret too. I think something like that.
He's a former Green
SEAL?
Beret. Yeah, I think he lost his leg. in
Green Beret because
Afghanistan.
SEAL would be a Marine.
No, a SEAL would be in the Navy.
Oh, Navy. Sorry. Well, close. I mean, Navy, Marine.
Man, the Marines wouldn't appreciate that. I got no dog in this fight. He's a Green Beret, and you know, as a combat vet myself, I mean, I'm obviously not a Green Beret, but like, I totally respect. We need more veterans, you know, willing to serve. We really need them, especially at the federal level. You know, people that have been to war don't want to see their children or grandchildren or anyone else's, you know, child go to war.
Yeah.
The most anti-war people are generally veterans. I mean, they're the type of people that if this country's going to go, we're going to go and we're going to win, and we're not going to be bullshitting around. But other than that,
I agree with you.
But other than that, veterans are not interested in this lollygagging around.
Right.
And so I'm a big supporter of that. But at the same time, Johnny, you know, my advice for vets is you got to have. There's got to be more to you than that. You can't just run on that. I mean,
you beat me to it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's got to be more there. And this is not to put him down because I don't know him, and I guarantee the guy's going to work hard. There's no doubt about that. Like I guarantee that he's going to work hard because you're not going to outwork a Green Beret. You're just not. So it's not a matter of whether he's willing to do the work or do a great job, because I'm sure he would. I think the challenge when it comes to really attractive candidates like that is that they come out of nowhere, which, I mean, you got to start somewhere, but they come out of nowhere. They don't have the lay of the land. They don't have the connections. They don't maybe have the money lined up.
Yep.
And then they go for the gusto. You know, I'm going to run for Congress. I'm going to run for U.S. Senate. It's like, man, there's a lot to do.
Yeah.
To run for
learn.
Yeah, there's a lot to learn. You got to have a team that needs to know what they're doing, not just college kids. I mean, you got to have and actually a Green Beret would understand that. Actually, I mean, they would understand this is a full-on operation that's going to be nonstop for the next 12 months of your campaign.
But it's someone that understands that you and your son's baseball team are not going to get you elected to Congress.
It's not. It takes so much, and unfortunately, money. It is what it is. 85% of the time in a campaign, you can go look this up online. You can go to some websites that follow money in campaigns. I can't think of the website now, but roughly 85% of the time, all other things irrelevant. Doesn't matter, male, female, incumbent, whatever it is. 85% of the time, the candidate with the most money wins. So if you don't have the most money or the ability to acquire the most financial resources to run your race, you have to ask yourself, so what's going to be different in this circumstance? And there might be something different. Your opponent might crap the bed. They might get arrested. You know, there's all sorts of things. People die, people drop out. There's all sorts of things that can happen. But if you're going to be in that 15% chance, you got to ask yourself, what's different?
Yeah.
And that's the struggle. So I'd like to see some of those candidates find a way to get in locally at a smaller level and go dominate some race. You know, go dominate a school board race.
Yeah.
Go dominate a city. There's city council races like the one in New Tampa where literally like 1,000 votes is the race or something like that, or 1,000 or like a couple hundred votes separates you.
Exactly.
And it's like, dude, go dominate that race because you know he could do it.
If you do it right,
you can go win those races and get started.
And build the network you need
build
to
the network, and then then you know all the people you need to know, because when you're running for office for the first time, there's there's people that you don't even know they know.
Right.
And all of those relationships and the way that web connects, you have to kind of understand that. And it's not a knock on somebody. It doesn't matter how smart you are or hardworking. You just don't fully understand the depth of relationships. And there's people that have been in the political process maybe 20 years, and they might want to support you, but they're not going to support you because they can't, because they're too connected in these other ways.
And
loyalty matters.
There's a hierarchy, and there's a network.
There's so much going on.
Yeah.
There's so much to it. So anyway.
Well, so the other three are another Green Beret, apparently. Veteran Jerry Torres, no relation. But always cool to see the name there. Navy, and then two Navy veterans, Demetrius Grimes and Kevin John McGovern. That's a political name if I've ever heard one.
Kevin. Yeah. They're in the race?
Yeah.
For CD15.
So these are all running as Republicans.
Okay, I have a question. I got a question.
Yeah.
Have they paid, what is it, 14,000? It depends on the population, I think. Have they paid the actual filing fee?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Because if you haven't paid, isn't the deadline coming up? Isn't the cutoff like this week or something? And
then what's funny is that few of the candidates for the race actually live within the district.
Yeah, but it's a redistricting year. But it's redistricting. You don't have to.
I know, but still. I mean,
I'm going to give all of them a pass on that. You don't have to because it's redistricting. How did you know? How would you know where the lines are going to be?
Yeah,
so you run, you know there's going to be an open seat. You throw your name in the hat. You don't know exactly where the line's going to be. And federal law doesn't, I think, require. I don't even think congressmen are required.
No, they're not.
Yeah, it's crazy. In the state level, you are. For those curious, in like the state legislature, you have to live in your district at the time that you are sworn in. So you can run, and then you can move. I remember when I was running, they had recently done the districts, and what was frustrating about it is it's like okay. Yeah, the difference between this district and this district is crossing the road. I live here. So, like, there's no, that district, they're your neighbors. This district, they're your neighbors. I mean, quite frankly, a lot of times you could run here, you could run there. These are your neighbors. I mean. Now,
Ross, actually, on an issue I know both of us are always fascinated by, Ross did say he would refund the money he's raised to his donors, about $73,000 as of March. So he had a good war chest going. And wished his competitors well.
Laura Lee's going to raise $1 million.
Ross urged them to run a campaign free of personal attacks. Yes, I think that's
Laura Lee's going to raise. I think
Laura Lee's going to be the front runner.
And Laura Lee's going to raise $1 million. And Dennis Ross did fine, and he's a former congressman, and I'm sure he's got the connections. But I mean, there's only so much money to go around.
The Lees are more powerful than people realize.
The what now?
The Lees.
Oh yeah.
They're much more powerful and connected, and
sure.
Let's be honest, wealthy.
Sure. Yep.
Than people realize.
Tom's done well for himself.
Mm-hmm. So
here's the thing. Here's the thing. Like, I'm gonna say this about Tom Lee. He's been in politics for a long time, but he hasn't always been in office.
Correct.
He has not always been in elected office, and he has stayed connected to his business. Right? And he does business and makes money that way. And, that's kind of what you want.
Yeah. What I like is that he's a straight shooter.
He is.
He's a no BS kind of guy. He's a little intimidating.
Yeah. No, he's a businessman. Yeah. No, he's a businessman. But the thing is, though, is that so many of these politicians, I mean, I understand. You get in office and you get another opportunity and you go for it. I understand that. But one of the complaints that a lot of people have is that, quite frankly, especially when you go up the ladder and you get to some high positions, really some of these politicians become debilitated by it. Like, they can't do anything else.
Right.
They've been involved for 20 years, 30 years. They're not even hireable. Like, they can't get a real job.
Sure. They don't know how to do anything else.
They don't know how to do anything else.
I mean, really, what could Charlie Crist do?
Nothing.
He's never done anything else in his life.
He got hired at Morgan & Morgan as an attorney, and come on. Do you think that Charlie Crist was like in there like, okay, Susie, you were in a car accident, I'm going to help you?
Yeah,
no.
Right.
He wasn't.
No, he was
a face. He was just shaking hands and stuff like that for John Morgan. or maybe John Morgan was, just hooking him up or whatever as a favor. But no, like with Tom Lee, I mean, the guy, he serves and then he comes out, he does business, he stays connected to his business. So in that regard, he doesn't need to be elected. His wife doesn't need to be elected. I mean, she's been a judge.
Right.
She has been. She's been a judge. She's been Secretary of State.
It is a little surprising to me is how quickly she's moving into this other role. And I wonder why that is.
For 4 years.
Yeah, but again, she was judged for a lot longer than that. I don't think she was there for 4 years.
No, remember the first Secretary of State for DeSantis, got involved in some crazy stuff or something?
Right.
Didn't he dress up in some racist outfit or something? Wasn't there something crazy that he did? The guy didn't even make it 5 days or something. It was something crazy like that.
Hold on, looking it up.
Yeah, it was something crazy. I don't even remember the guy's name, but it was kind of one of those situations where it was a disaster. Laurel Lee had, she was a judge, and it was bringing her in brought stability.
Oh, yeah, here it is.
Yeah, it
Thanks,
brought
Wikipedia.
Yeah, it brought stability, maturity to the situation. Let's get somebody in here that can handle this, and let's move on.
So this is what it was. Lee was appointed Florida Secretary of State by Governor DeSantis on January 28th. Hold on, because for some reason Siri decided to act up here. Okay, 2019. So she's been in office, just about 4 years.
Yeah,
replacing Mike Erdl, who resigned after less than a month in office.
Yeah, see,
when a 2005 photo of him wearing blackface as a part of a Halloween costume.
There you go.
As a Hurricane Katrina victim surfaced. So that was a double negative. I mean, that was...
Oh, he was
that's 2 strikes right out of the gate. Oh,
he went to a Halloween party dressed up as a Hurricane Katrina victim.
In blackface.
Oh, my gosh. So, and I think he was in his 20s or something, right? When that happened? In college or something stupid.
Yeah, it was something.
It was something stupid where he was in college or something, and
not to
whatever. Yeah, but either way it goes, it was one of those
inappropriate.
things. Yeah, DeSantis had just gotten elected, and it was this dude became a problem for him right away. Yeah. And I remember thinking, bringing Laurel Lee in was a smart choice because she didn't have none of that crap going on, and she was a judge at the time, and just settled all that down. Let's get an adult in there, and took care of that. She's been there for 4 years.
Yeah, and
that's
then
not uncommon
prior to
for
that,
people to leave after 4 years.
Governor Scott had appointed her to a judgeship on the 13th Judicial Circuit Court of Florida in 2013. So she was there for 6 years. She was unopposed for election to a full year 6 term in 2014. So she did her time. So I mean, she's going to be the favorite there. She's, she's got a clean record. She's going to raise a ton of money, and hopefully, again, she being from Hillsborough County, I think that's going to be a win for us. So on the Democrat side, a comedian is running, Eddie Geller. Kudos to them. Political consultant Gavin Brown is running. And a veteran and former Postal Service worker, Bill Van Horn, and Democratic Hispanic Caucus of Florida President Cesar Ramirez running.
So nobody, and nobody.
Yeah.
Well, that race is a I mean, it's
a solid race.
It's a solid Republican seat, or it's light Republican.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So we'll keep you informed as to any more developments again on those elections. But again, those are 2 big dropouts. I mean,
who's running for CFO on the Republican side?
I don't know. I mean, is Petronas not staying on, or
isn't he? Is he not termed out?
Oh, because he was under Rick Scott, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Oh. Is he termed out?
Oh, let me look it up. Hold on.
Anyway. What's our next topic, Obama?
This is captivating stuff here, folks.
For all you political nerds. Yeah.
Well, the next topic is really Obamacare continues to be a major failure as we continue to have to throw money at it to keep it running the way that they hoped it would.
Remember when they spent like $5 billion for the website or something?
Oh,
$6
yeah.
billion for the website.
I mean, again, if you needed a bigger red flag.
Can you imagine a company that started up by spending $6 billion to build their website?
Oh, they don't care. It's not their money. I mean,
like, that would never happen. Hey, we need to raise $25 billion. $25 billion? What are you guys going to do? Well, we got to spend $6 billion just to get the website up and running.
right.
Like, that is not a good investment.
Let's see.
But hey, ain't no money like government money.
That's right. So let's see. State. This is 2020. Oh, I got the wrong one. Hold on. But apparently we've already got 5 candidates for the 2024 election for president.
Oh, yeah. There's always like 25 people that are actually running for president that you don't realize until you go on the Department of Elections website. They don't end up on the ballot, most of them, though.
Yeah, there's like 20 here for senator.
Yeah, they keep them off the ballot.
There's Congress. Let's see who else. Let me see. 15. Yeah. Healthy list there for 15. Actually, you were talking about qualifying. Oh, these are just active accounts. It doesn't say qualifying yet.
What's the qualifying date? It's got to be like tomorrow, right?
I'm sure it's pretty soon. Also, the 18 is a deep field, too. Holy cow. You've got Scott Franklin, who's the incumbent. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 other Republicans running in that seat.
That doesn't make sense.
Against Scott Franklin.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, that's a deep, deep field right there. Okay. Governor, Attorney General, Chief Financial Officer. Oh, that's right. Adam Hattersley.
Yeah.
Who we know well.
Yeah.
Adam Hattersley's running on the Democrat side. A guy named Tyrone Javelano. No, Patronus is running.
Hattersley's a nice enough guy, but I mean, you know,
he'll win on the Democrat side.
I got to know him. I got to know him through running against him, you know. But I mean, at some point in time, it's like, dude, what are you doing? Are you just running to make money? Like, are you raising money and living off of it? Like,
a race we haven't talked about at all
on?
is Commissioner of Agriculture. Wilton Simpson running for that.
Yeah, he's got that sewed up.
Yeah,
because Caldwell got out of the race. Remember that?
Oh, that's right.
Caldwell was somebody that a lot of people liked. He was the Republican nominee in 2018.
He got in again?
No, he was the Republican nominee in 2018.
Well, lost to Nikki Fried.
And he lost to Nikki Fried.
Right.
Like, who knows? I mean, like, I don't know. He lost very barely. And then he was kind of, I think, suspected to run again. And then I'm sure he and Senator Simpson probably had a little chat.
Oh, absolutely.
Chat on the back porch.
Yeah. But, yeah, it looks like Patronus is running for re-election.
So okay.
He's not turned.
Okay. I thought he was.
But, all right, so to close out tonight's show again.
He's stayed away from controversy, hasn't he?
Who's that?
Patronus.
Yeah.
He hasn't really.
You know, small business owner,
Yeah.
panhandle guy. Seems like a kind of jovial, happy-go-lucky guy.
Yeah.
Very likable. He's one of these guys that I've heard mixed things about, but the fact that he just kind of stays out of everybody's way, I think, is what's helped him. It's just one of the. He hasn't ruffled the wrong feathers. In other words,
something to be said for surviving.
Yeah. Hey, again, as long as you don't tick off the wrong people, I think in politics you're going to be in good shape. So, as we close out tonight's show with tonight's final topic, again, we want to thank everybody for watching the show. Again, don't forget to check out our friends over at Community Patriots, who are supporters of the show. They've got a lot going on, especially as they are ramping up, like all of us are here for the midterm elections. If you want to get involved with a community organization that is constitution-based, but maybe not necessarily partisan, not caught up in all of the political drama that we often talk about here on on this show, check out Community Patriots. They have great chapters in Pinellas County, Hillsborough County, and if you'd like to open one in your neighborhood, reach out to Jeff, Kim, and the team over at community-patriots.com. That's community-patriots.com. They have amazing events, meetings coming up. All right, so make sure you check them out and join them at one of their upcoming meetings and tell them the yard sign sent you. Our final topic, as I mentioned, is going to be about Obamacare. Because, again, it's one of these things that Democrats do with good intentions and then doesn't quite work out the way they anticipated. And so the solution is to continue to throw more money at it because it's broken and there's no way for them to fix it because there's no political will to fix it. So it turns out that Congress here is going to try to have to save this. So, according to a new report, more than 500,000 Floridians could lose their health care if Congress doesn't make a tax credit included in the American Rescue Plan permanent. Okay, so now something that was supposed to be temporary is now having to be made permanent for this to work. The Robert Wood Johnson Foundation and the Urban Institute found out that about 3.1 million Americans are at risk of losing their coverage. 3.1 million Americans are at risk of losing their health care coverage. Okay, now these are people that probably had decent health care coverage to start out with because remember, they said if you had a doctor, you could keep it. That turned out to be a lie.
We were told if you like your insurance plan, you can keep your insurance plan. If you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. We were promised.
But because of these premium tax credits, okay, the American Rescue Plan boosted premium tax credits, which offset the cost of purchasing health insurance on the federal marketplace. But the expanded credit is currently set to expire at the end of this year. So for it to make sense, for them to be able to make it financially viable for this 500,000 Floridians to have Obamacare, they have to offer these tax credits that are going to expire at the end of the year. If not extended, Americans who earn an annual income between 150% and 400% of the poverty level, currently $13,590 for individuals or $27,750 for a family of four, will have to pay an additional $1,000 a year for silver level health insurance. Those with incomes more than 4 times the federal poverty level would pay roughly $2,000 more per person.
Which is why what people generally do is they don't buy the insurance until they get sick.
Right.
And then they go on the marketplace and buy the insurance.
Yeah.
Which is why so many insurance companies or medical practices and whatnot refuse to take the plans because they don't pay.
I mean, what's scary is how close were we? We are obviously already getting taxed for it. And they're using things like student loan money to fund this.
Yeah, that's another thing people don't realize.
Yeah, that's
the interest rate that you pay on student loans actually pays. It goes into the pot to pay for Obamacare.
Yeah, which is why they'll never cancel student loans.
Right, and people don't understand what happened there. See, I went to college when you had to go to a bank and take out a private loan. And sure, they hooked you up. They knew that, it was a student loan. I mean, they hooked you up. But
did you have to crank your car to get there? Like, was it like a clockwise crank?
No. Well, I know. Well, hey, people these days don't remember when you had a key. You had a key. It was a key.
Yeah. The other one was remember the automatic seatbelt?
You had to. Yeah.
Somebody posted that
had the automatic seatbelt.
Yeah, they were frustrated because their mechanic couldn't figure out what that was.
Really?
I guess they had like a really young mechanic.
Really?
And they sent him a video, and they're like, "What is this?" They're like, "What does this thing do?" And it was the automatic seatbelt.
I'm so old. I remember when you used to have to put the key in the door to unlock the car door.
Right.
We had alarms before we had like automatic car doors. Remember when you were like cool, like as a teenager, you had like an alarm and you had the alarm,
No, better yet, remember when you needed 2 keys? You needed the one for the door and then the one for the ignition?
Yeah. Yeah. So So what were we talking about?
Obamacare. Naturally.
So I remember my student loan. I ended up getting a student loan down to 2.5%. And when Obamacare nationalized, okay, I'm going to use that word 'cause that's what it is.
Sure.
They nationalized the loans. And I remember because I had a little bit remaining paying off or whatever. It wasn't much at all. When I got the notice that my loan had been taken over, it was being serviced by whoever. Now, it didn't matter for me because the contract provisions of the loan protected me. So, I mean, I was still paying whatever.
Yeah.
But it was taken over. It was taken away from the bank and taken over by the federal government. And then the loans that people were taking out were like 6.5%. And that interest people were paying, I think they're just like, oh, you get a loan, you pay interest. No, the government was charging you that money. And the government was taking the interest because, see, it would have went to the bank if it was see, my interest was going to the bank. No, this interest is going to the government, and they're using it to pay for part of Obamacare.
Yep. Yeah, along with the ton of other things.
Along with all sorts of other weird ways. Yeah. They had to do all sorts of craziness to get the money.
Yep.
And that's, like you were saying, a lot of people don't understand. They can't cancel your student loan because if they cancel you, you're not paying interest payments anymore. And if your interest money doesn't come into the federal government, then the numbers for Obamacare are even worse.
I'm telling you, if you're out there hoping that that Biden cancels 10 grand of your student loans, like, take your crumbs and be happy, because that's about as good a deal as you're going to get.
Yeah, it's crazy. We shouldn't even go into the student loan thing because the people that because paying off student I'm not going to call anybody out, but I've seen people online that have doctorate degrees now. They chose as an adult to go and get that level of education. They have the ability to command a wage that is much higher than most taxpayers. And they're like, yeah, we should pay off our student loans and we should get student loans forgiven. It's like, what, bro? You want your plumber? You want your plumber's tax dollars to pay off your student loan? You want the tax dollars of your teacher, the teacher of your kids?
Your waitress?
Your waitress's tax dollars are going to pay off your student loan,
bro? Your barista?
I mean, come on now. I mean, at least if they were going to do something like that, you do it for people that might be indigent or something, or like, you're below the poverty line, or you say to like teachers, like, hey, if you'll go into education, or if you'll join the military, or if you'll go into some kind of public health or public service, if you'll do something like that, go serve the country, then the country will pay off your loans for you.
Totally good with that.
That's one thing. That's a trade-off that is worth it for society.
Yeah, it's like a friend of mine did that. He was like top 1% of my class in high school, went and studied dentistry, and
got it paid for.
He got some sort of got into some sort of program that if he went out to the middle of nowhere in Montana, I think, and practiced out there for a number of years, that he'd get his loans. Yeah.
That's a fair deal.
Absolutely.
I'd
take that all day long.
Yeah, shoot ya. People want something for free, man. Everybody wants something for free, and there's no free lunch, and everybody knows that inherently.
These people that want to scream that Republicans are the ones holding down the poor and the middle class in this country are the ones advocating for this.
Oh, right. Yeah. They don't understand. Because they don't understand who's paying for it. Right. They literally think that when the government forgives your student loans, that a magic man behind the mirror pays your student loans.
Right.
It's like, no, dude.
Yeah, the money just goes away.
Yeah, no, that's your tax dollars. You have to pay for that.
Yeah, somebody still has to pay for it.
And actually, the majority of a lot of these student loans, I remember, this is kind of like the minimum wage debate. Like the majority of people, like only about 4% of the country actually makes minimum wage. And the overwhelming majority of the people that do make minimum wage are white, middle, and upper class kids under the age of 24 that still live at home with their parents.
Right, because they can afford to.
And it's like, who are we trying to pay extra money again? Because everybody thinks that it's like the single mom that's working like 3 jobs to make inmates. No, you are literally giving more money to a 15-year-old that works at Chick-fil-A and lives at home with their parents.
Yeah. Right.
Like the college kid doesn't need more beer money.
Especially right now when most jobs are going for, they're starting at $17, $15, $20 an hour.
So people just don't understand where the money's coming from. Anyway, it's bogus. It's going to blow. It's blowing up, and Obamacare is blowing up. It's been blowing up. And so many people don't want to take it. And like, I'm gonna leave you with this on the Obamacare thing. I had like a little healthcare scare recently. Everything's fine. Everything worked out. But I had somebody tell me literally, now I have a type of insurance we pay for in the family and everything or whatever. Okay, so set that aside for a second. I'm already paying, okay, and all that. But this person at a medical establishment actually said to me, like, just go sign up for go sign up for Obamacare. It'll be cheaper for you. And I was like, what? So the idea was this. Now, I didn't end up being sick, but here's the thing. The idea was this. I had to get some testing or whatever. The idea was this. What they were saying is that if you're sick, go sign up for Obamacare because it'll be cheaper for you than what you're doing over here
with your private health care.
Yeah, and I'm like, so you're basically acknowledging that it's a scam where you don't pay for it until you get sick. And if you think about it, that goes against how insurance works. Everybody can't be filing a claim.
I was going to say,
everybody can't be cashing in.
I thought you had to sign up for Obamacare during a certain period.
Well, no, you can sign up for Obamacare. See, Obamacare, remember, Obamacare allows you to have pre-existing conditions. Remember one of the issues with insurance has always been no pre-existing conditions. Right. And actually the plan that we're under actually is that way too. Like we can't have pre-existing conditions, which is fine because my wife and I and our kids, we're all healthy. But that's always been a challenge. And I understand it, right? What do you do if you're 55, you're not old enough for Medicare, you make too much money for Medicaid, you're stuck in the middle, but now you don't have a job, you can't afford COBRA, and now you need insurance. These people couldn't go out on the market. They couldn't get insurance because they had a pre-existing condition. And that was part of the reason, in all fairness, that was part of the reason why Obamacare did have some support, some broad support, because there were people that found themselves in this terrible circumstance of no fault of their own, and they couldn't get insurance because now you got a pre-existing condition. So once you lost your job, or whatever, you were screwed. So part of Obamacare was that you could have a pre-existing condition and you could get insurance, right? That was part of the deal. But what's happening though is that people, like young people, right? They're not signing up like Obamacare thought they would, because when you're 25, you're never going to die, right? You're never going to get sick when you're in your 20s, right?
You get sick once a year.
Exactly. I know I never thought about my own personal health or safety, right? So I wouldn't have went out and paid, a couple $100 a month,
Right.
And of course, the price for the young kids in college is actually higher than it should be, right? They should be paying $50 a month,
right?
But they're not. They're being charged like $200 a month. They don't want to pay it. It doesn't seem reasonable to them. The math doesn't add up, so they don't do it. And that was another thing. Obamacare, in order for it to work, they really needed everybody to get insurance, and everybody didn't get insurance because everybody didn't want insurance.
But it's dumb because if they could have hit the right price target, and again, it goes back to government not understanding how business works.
Right.
If they would have hit the right price target for those younger people, they probably could have had a lot of people signing up.
Maybe. But they didn't. Yeah, no, you're right. But they didn't. And so the numbers don't work. And so now the only people that are signing up in many respects, not everybody, but in many respects, people don't sign up until they're sick.
Right. All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for listening, watching The Yard Sign. Jonny Torres, your host, as always. Joe Wicker, so glad to have you back on the show, my man. Yep. Again, if you missed any part of the show, you can subscribe to the audio version of the podcast on any of the podcast platforms. Also, shout out again to our friends at Community Patriots, community-patriots.com. And we also, of course, are always on Facebook, YouTube. Please sure to make sure you like, subscribe, follow, ring the bell, and tell your friends and family members to join us. Joe, anything you want to kind of close with? Anything you're following? You want to kind of bring to light?
Just your weekly trying to keep the government off my guns. Just trying to. I'm sorry, my guns. I don't own any guns. Trying to keep the government away from taking everybody's guns.
Yeah.
I saw this meme, so I'm going to repeat. It said, "All I'm asking for is the right to the same weapons that I paid for the Taliban to own."
Nice. That's a good one.
We gave the Taliban all sorts of weapons.
Sure.
You trust the Taliban with those weapons? The Afghanis? You're okay with them having those weapons, not the American people?
Oh, no, it's okay for the Ukrainians to have weapons.
Yeah. We need to send a bunch of weapons to the Ukrainians, but not ourselves. These people, man. It's a political... The last thing I'm going to say about that, because that's a whole topic, is... If you're wondering whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, because it goes both ways, if you're wondering why your elected officials haven't actually done anything on guns, one way or the other, expanded gun rights, given us back our rights that we once had at the founding of this country, or restricting those rights, which is what the left wants, and some moderates, and some Republicans, unfortunately. If you're wondering why your elected official hasn't done one of those things, either way, on either side of the issue, the reason is because sometimes problems are better to run on for these people than they are to solve.
To be solved, sure.
Politicians love to have an issue
like
to
the
run
pharmaceutical industry.
Yeah, you need an issue to run on. And so when these things happen, the Democrats are running on the issue of taking guns away from people, and they're going to campaign on it, and they're going to have mailers, and they're going to tweet, and they're going to raise money, and you're going to get emails and fundraisers and donation requests and all that. But they're not going to do anything about it, actually, because if they solved the problem in their eyes, it's not they wouldn't solve it, but if they solved an issue in their eyes, then they wouldn't have an issue to run on.
Right.
So they're going to keep raising money off of you and your fears and tell you that, these people have guns and we need to take those guns and give me $100 for my campaign and I'll be able to do something about it. And then the next year they won't, and they won't, and they won't. And it goes on and on and on because they don't want to solve a problem that's really good politics.
Yeah. No, I think you're absolutely right. And as for me, I'll kind of end tonight's show on a much lighter note, and that is that our Tampa Bay Lightning, squeaked out a win to make the 7-game series here for the Eastern Conference playoffs a 2-1 matchup so far. So they absolutely have to win this week and to even out the series. And then I think if they even out the series, they can go the rest.
We're gonna pull it off.
But nothing would be more amazing than to have a three-peat on our hands.
Tampa Bay times 3.
That would be amazing.
Three-peat.
Have you gone to any of the boat parades?
I've never been to a boat parade, no.
You got to go, man. It's a lot of fun. Yeah, it's very cool.
You mean like a Trump boat parade?
No, like the...
Well, he started them,
the
right?
Tampa Bay Lightning boat parade.
I've never been to a Tampa Bay Lightning boat parade.
Or even the Bucks boat parade.
Nope, never been.
You got to go.
Dude, I got a wife and 3 small kids, man.
Well, take them with you. That's,
Well, I don't have a boat. What do you do?
You just go downtown,
stand
along the river.
Stand along the river and watch Tom Brady throw the trophy and hope secretly hope that it drops in the water.
Yeah, exactly.
To see somebody have to go in there and fish it out. No, I've never been to a boat parade. I mean, they're cool. They look cool.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, so hopefully we'll have another one in store. On behalf of Joe Wicker, I'm Jonny Torres. Thank you, everybody,
I like
for
hockey
watching.
Because they're not sissies, man. Like they don't. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They don't call fouls like
they don't flop.
Yeah, they don't flop, and they don't call fouls like they do in every other sport. And when they start getting into it, ref backs up, lets them get a few blows in.
That's right.
Knock a few teeth out. Okay, boys. All right, that's enough. That's enough. Calm down.
Yeah.
And
helmets and all.
Yeah, and they shake hands and go back about their business. It's still like a contact sport, right? Like football.
Yes.
Football, they're putting in so many rules.
Yeah.
It's almost to the point to where you can't hit
just
somebody.
a restraint game now.
Yeah.
It's a restraint game now.
Yeah.
It's who can hold each other the longest.
Yeah.
Who can stop, there's no hitting. There's no...
You're literally not allowed to hit under a lot of circumstances in football.
Right.
And even when you are supposed to be hitting, if you accidentally hit the wrong way or you miss it by a millisecond, it's like up targeting, up roughing the kicker, roughing the passer, it's just like, dude.
Because there's nothing better than
football.
watching like 80s in 90s football when you could just like clobber someone.
You didn't even, those guys didn't even like live past 55. Like they didn't even make it to Social Security. They didn't even get their retirement. They were so rough. But with hockey, it's still a full on. We don't give a crap. We're not woke. Contact sport. Yeah. Come out here and get some.
That's right.
And I like it for that reason.
Cool. On that note, thank you everybody for watching. This has been another edition of the Yard Sign. We'll see you back here next Monday night with or without an Ebel. Good night, everybody. Good night.